London AIM-listed Alien Metals, which has the ticker symbol UFO, a global minerals exploration and development company. It's soon expected to become an iron ore producer at one of its Western Australian projects, the Hancock Project. Troy Whittaker has recently been appointed as chief executive, and he joins us now on the line from Perth. Troy, welcome. Thanks for your time. It's an interesting story. We've spoken at IGTV before in a sort of a previous life, if you like, about Alien Metals. But we've now seen some new appointments to the board, including yourself. Just explain what it is you saw in the business that persuaded you to take the top job.
I think, it's quite a unique business, Alien Metals. There's a lot going on, in the portfolio. But there's some real grunt there that is near term as well as long term. I think for me, what I saw was certainly the Hancock project, which is just outside of Newman and our priority. It's a nice, neat, little, simple iron ore startup with access to infrastructure and access to a road. Which is more can be seen for a lot of companies. So I think for me, the ability to actually build something with access to a road and get out, it's not often you sort of that sort of opportunity falls into your lap, to say.
Yeah, and as I said, there were some other board changes as well. What's the team like behind you, and what is your specialism? I mean, I'm interested to know about with this transformation between exploration to development to, as I say, soon to become a producer of iron ore. What do you bring in terms of your skill set, and what's the rest of the board made up of in terms of their approaches to this new development of the business?
I think as a general, I suppose, rule across the board now, you will have seen that there has been a bit of a reshuffle. Prior to us coming along, the board's focus was M&A. It was top tier projects, top tier jurisdictions, and they did a fantastic job putting these projects, into the portfolio. Now there's that natural inflection point where the board needs to change with the vision of the company. And the vision of the company is we are now moving into a development and operation space. So I'll start with me and then move through. My background. I come from, minerals and commodities in Western Australia. I worked for Fortescue Metals Group for quite a significant period of time. I led the commercial team there when they built, Solomon, which was, north of $3 billion US. I was also part of that team, which actually took the C1 cost from, around US $60 a tonne to well south of $20 a tonne. So developing and operating is certainly my background. And if you look at other appointments on the board, Liz Hanson's just come on, specialist in capital markets, financial background, plays in that space, which brings money into the company to enable development. And I think the most notable one is probably Alvin Borster. Alvin comes from a deep mineral commodities background. I only have to go back, sort of 2 or 3, and he was the managing director of Iron Ore Holdings. He was then the managing director of BCI Minerals, and just recently he finished up as chief executive officer of Hastings. So you look at those people. There's significant depth, significant experience, significant contacts. Industry wealth. We're now at the point where the board is there. Their vision and their mandate now is to develop and operate.
Yeah, Alvin Foster, of course, coming in as non-exec chairman. I know, looking down the list as part of this appointment thing, you've got certain performance rights that'll be awarded to you along the road, as far as presumably some milestones get hit. Are you already a shareholder? Do you have skin in the game, as people like to say? I mean, what's your interest in the business as we move on from here?
I picked up, there was a transaction towards the back end of last year. Both myself and Rod McIlroy, who were executive chair at the time, participated fairly heavily in that. And then just recently in the placement, myself and Alvin also participated in that.
Yeah. Okay, look, let's move on and take a look at what's on offer for investors. In just a few moments' time, I'll take a look at the share price. But I want to begin first of all, if I can, to take a look at this Hancock project as it moves into production. And I know from what we spoke about before we went live to camera that you consider Hancock as the biggest thing you've got to deal with at the moment. Explain more about where you are and the recent appointments, because I understand you've just selected a preferred contractor, and also there is a rapid crushing and screening contract that's also been awarded, which obviously helps the project to start to produce.
So if I sort of rewind to the start of this year, the team was focused on in 2021 there was a scoping study delivered. And scoping study, it talks good numbers, it talks about a great story. The focus on this month has been a couple of things. One is progressing approvals. Approvals are king to getting this project off the ground. And the second element to that is starting to reinforce that, for what the scoping study did from a capital and an operational viewpoint was we could do that. And, over the course of this 9 months, we've been talking to contractors far and wide, looking for the right fit, for the right cost. And that sort of resulted in Regroup being appointed as the major construction and operations contractor for the project. Regroup are probably the largest, larger, if not the largest private company in Western Australia in terms of that mining space. Their clients include Newcrest, Fortescue. So they're certainly not, the tier 3 or 4. We are hitting that tier one contractor. And then on the crushing and screening side, we sort of carve that out from the rest of the scope, because that is probably where you'll make and break this project. From a final product viewpoint. So we went to rapid crushing. Again, hard rock specialists done significant work for Fortescue. Across those two contractors now, we certainly feel as though we've got the right sort of mix to deliver this project.
Yeah. What about the costs involved in all this? First of all, have you got a date to start producing and start getting money coming back in from all this investment you've made? What's the plan in terms of dates in the diary we should watch out for?
So current plans, in the diary is the DFS we commenced about 4 weeks ago. That DFS is not long-winded in any way, shape, or form. I think people sometimes get hung up that DFS is 12, 18, 24 months. The benefit of us is we're not $500 million, we're not $1 billion, we're not 1.5. Scoping study sort of suggests that we're in or around that US $30 million amount, and we're certainly on track for that. And the benefit of all that work the team have done through this year, they've advanced engineering, they've got contractors, they've advanced approvals. That's all works that typically happen in the DFS. We've now got Mining Plus wrapping that up. And then on the flip side, all that those additional project enabling works like an airstrip or a camp. We sit just outside the town of Newman. So, all that enabling infrastructure that you typically have to spend quite significant amounts of money on, we don't have to. We know that there's flights into Newman. We know there is accommodation in Newman. So, our ability to do that DFS is something that can happen really quickly. So that will be something that sort of happens towards the back end of this year. The other work stream that we've been working on is resources and reserves. The ore is the money, and giving people confidence that the ore is there. So we've had a couple of campaigns this year. The most recent one, we should start to see those results coming through over the course of the next couple of weeks and months. And with that will come, what we hope is upgrades to our ore reserves and mining inventory. So that sort of gets you through at least the next 3 or so months.
Yeah, let's return to that point I also made about cash and how well the company is set up to take you through to what point? To production? Do you have enough money to take you all the way through to that?
So the plan is it gets us through to a final investment decision. The production capital will be a separate funding scenario, and we're looking at how and when that's funded. But the cash we raised £2 million a couple of weeks ago. The benefit of Alien is that it is not a huge conglomerate. In London, we have someone sort of part-time helping us out with IR. We've now shifted the team down to Australia, but for where we are as a company, there's myself, there's the board of directors, there's an exploration manager, and there's a part-time accounts team. So you do not want to see a company at this stage with layers upon layers upon layers. You want the right team, the right consultants, and the right engineers working with that. So we're well placed at a really slow burn to take us through to fit.
Yeah, how do you feel about the market at the moment? How difficult is it for a company of the size of Alien, what around about £10.5 million market cap? How difficult is it for you to find funding when you need the money? I mean, clearly, when you de-risk things and you present a project which ultimately will provide iron ore into what is at the moment a pretty good market, how difficult is it for you? What degree of difficulty is there for you in raising money?
Well, I think if I look back at the placement which happened a couple of weeks ago, the actual support for Alien was exceptional, and that's actually something that I was quite proud of. Is that the people they know the story, they're aware of the story, they believe in the story, and all fundraising has its challenges, as we all know. But the fact of the matter there is that our shareholders, both new and existing, were there to support us. As we look forward to the capital side of things, the benefit we have is, we're in Western Australia, it's a known mining jurisdiction, and we're in iron ore. People know the sort of cash that can potentially spin. It's not a new commodity, it's a known commodity. There's a market for it, and I think as important as the rest of it is, the grade of our iron ore starts with a 6. You look around that Pilbara region now, and unfortunately, it is slowly trending down, and it begins with a 5. We're sitting at something that's 60 or plus, which makes it a fairly sought after product.
Yeah. Just briefly bring up the iron ore share price things with price of the metal. Just I mean, the shape of this chart anyway, but just to give people some sort of context in what we're talking about here. Do you know yet where the iron ore that you produce will go? What sort of iron ore are you producing? What will happen to it after that when you bring it out of the ground?
So we sit on the 62% benchmark. I think today it's thereabouts $118 a tonne. We sit at about 60.5, 61% iron ore. There will be a small discount where we're not anticipating it's $10 to $20. We're sort of thinking it's probably somewhere between 2 and 5. Certainly today's prices. And where it sort of sits, it's I think it's probably middle of the range for the last 52 odd weeks. It did dip below 100 a little bit earlier on, and it's been back up at 150 odd. I think what we've seen probably over the course of the last couple of months is it seems to have stabilised a bit. The last 2 weeks it has increased by $10, which is good news. But I think we're sort of we're in the bookends now as to where we should see some stability moving forward.
Yeah, let me just quickly take a little bit of a diversion down a side route and ask you a little bit more about, as I say, where the metal's going to go. I'm thinking about in the context of this slowdown we've got in China at the moment. How significant is that, do you think, for the long-term business of producing base metals? Do you have a view on what's happening and the demand that's out there in the market at the moment?
Look, I think the demand will always be there. And whether or not that slows down or not is something to be seen. But if you look further around the world, if we focus on our area in that Southeast Asia, the likes of Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, we are seeing really good demand from there. And at our end of the market, the steel mills, the big earth steel mills, which really fund the Chinese side, they're not looking for 1.25 million tons, 1.5 million tons. The steel mills that are knocking down our doors are those ones which then become reliant on us and really want our ore. So I think where we're at in that sort of that niche iron ore producer at a low cost, I think we're sitting in a good spot for people knocking on our door, and we're seeing that.
Look, it's great to be able to talk to you about the flagship asset, but I know also that Alien has other assets on the books. How important are they to you? I mean, I guess at the moment your main priority is obviously getting this project up and running into a production state. So what about the other assets, which I think are mostly all, aren't they, in Western Australia?
They are as well. So we've got 7 licenses, that combination of mining and exploration up just south of Karratha. And, it's called the Pinderi Hills Complex. And, it's those assets have not been, under one portfolio. I can't even sort of, guess where they were. But, on our, there's Muni Muni, which was PGM. You've got the old Elizabeth Hill site, which is silver. And then all around those two sort of resources, you have this really exciting ultramafic that has represented that it's got potentially other base metals. There could be copper, there could be nickel. I think one of the sort of strategies we're employing at the moment is we've got this portfolio, lots and lots of drilling, lots and lots of geochemical sampling, lots and lots of testing has occurred there. But they've been focused on either silver or the PGMs. We're seeing that there's actually significant potential results of others. So, just sitting down, having 7 pieces of the pie rather than one is actually getting quite exciting for us. So, the focus remains and will always remain on Hancock. But at the moment, we get some fresh air and some free breathing space and, some free cash. Pinderi Hills has the chance to really move the needle.
Let me take a look now at the share price. So I think I want to bring up a share price chart. Now, bearing in mind, I think what I said at the top, you've been around the company since the back end of last year. You've recently been appointed as chief executive. And I did ask you at the top what you saw in the business. And, you gave a really decent answer about how you saw things set up. But, I mean, share price is down here. We know some markets are getting hit more than others. What's priced in at this level? As I said earlier, we've got a market cap of about 10.5 million at the moment on the London market. What is being priced in? Is there a mismatch in pricing and what you consider the company to be worth?
Oh, look, a personal opinion, absolutely. Where we're at the moment, it's the entire AIM market unfortunately has had a bit of a hiccup. We unfortunately have had more than a hiccup than AIM. But I think the important thing for all of us now is have the plan and execute the plan. We've come out now, talked about what we're going to do. We've seen that we've delivered the DFS, so we've started the DFS. We've now got these contractors on early contractor involvement. We just now need to do what we said we were going to do. And there's obviously a lag in there somewhere. There's obviously a discount in there somewhere. But I sort of look at that and I'm as frustrated as the next person. But the thing which we need to do now is do what we say we're going to do.
Yeah. Okay, well, we look forward to hearing more from you as you move on further towards production of iron ore at Hancock. In the meantime, good luck with everything. It's a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
That's Troy Whittaker. He's the newly appointed Chief Executive of London AIM-listed Alien Metals.